Stella, no, get out of there.
I'm gonna do this.
Julie couldn't find her invitation. I just sent it to her again. So she should be coming on any minute.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
I don't know.
I love that logo, Monica. Who made that?
Okay. Julie is still trying to log on, so we'll have to be patient.
No problem.
I believe Julie's here somewhere.
I just got on, but for some reason my video is not working.
Huh.
Huh. Start video. How about that? Oh,
There you are.
Yeah, Rita's on. Okay, she just sent me a message too that she was having trouble getting on. Okay. looks like, yeah. Okay, we were waiting for Robert.
I see Chris Underhill isn't here.
Okay, I don't see Robert either.
I got a text from a constituent saying they can't get onto the meeting either.
I
It's
don't
not-
know why. It should work.
Huh.
Because both you, Councilmember Russell, and you, Chairperson Bowden, both got in as an attendee through the website,
Okay,
through the what's on the agenda.
okay.
I just promoted you both to panelists.
Oh, got it.
You got
Okay,
in the same way that somebody from the outside should be able to get in.
okay. All right, so it looks like we've got a quorum. So I'd like to welcome everybody and call this regular meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee this February 18th, 2021. Maureen, could you do a roll call, please?
You bet. If you'll please acknowledge me calling your name by saying here. Julie Bowden,
Here.
Colleen Dickerson,
Here.
Carson Green, Carson, you're muted. There you go.
Sorry. Here.
Monica Johnson,
Here.
Kara Frangipane,
Here.
Sonia Strom,
Here.
Christopher Underwood is not here. Unless he came in as an attendee. No, he did not. Robert Watson,
Here.
thank
Sorry.
you. So it shows that all members excluding Christopher Underwood are here.
Okay, great. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes, but before we start that, I wanted to officially welcome Robert Watson to our committee and then ask the members if they would please introduce themselves to Robert and let them know how long you've been on the committee and what your experience has been. I'm happy to go ahead and get started since I asked for it. So Robert, you and I've been in contact, but I've been on the committee. I'm coming up on my fifth year, I believe. And I've been chair for the past year. I've seen quite a bit of evolution in our committee since we started, and I'm really excited about the direction that we're going, and we've modified code and our relationship with code enforcement. It's a very complementary relationship, and things are working. So I'm really glad to have you as a member and help continue the success that we've been having.
Hey, thank you.
Sonia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Let's see. Hi, I'm Sonia Strom, and I have been on the board for only about 6 months or so. I just know it was like after COVID. And I feel like every time we have a meeting, I am learning something new, and we are working on ways to make it better to help code enforcement and help the citizens understand what's the best quality of life as a group in a community. And that's what I like about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. How about you, Member Dickerson?
Hi. I usually go by CEAC, but they have it up as my full legal name. I've been on the committee since July of 2017. I have 1 year and 3 months or so left to go before I am termed out. I've enjoyed my time on here. I remember the very first thing that's ever gone through this committee and gotten approved and we had to hassle it out with the city attorney, but we got what we wanted on ice and snow, and so now it's being enforced properly. So I was very grateful to have been a part of that.
Thank you, Member
Nice to meet
Dickerson.
you.
Carson?
Hello, I'm Carson Green. I've been on the committee for, I guess, about a year and a half. And I enjoy understanding what, the people who, like Supervisor Lewis is so informative in letting us know what types of issues come up for him and his team in enforcing the code. And I really like being a part of this committee and understanding, what's needed, but also coming from the perspective and making sure to represent the perspective of citizens, and helping to prioritize what and then make recommendations to city council on what changes might, help not just code enforcement, but also citizens. And, I like thinking about it as a balance in between. And I feel like since I've been on the committee, we've done a really good job of keeping both sides of that in mind.
Nice.
Thank you, Carson. Cara, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Cara. I joined the same time as Sonia and Monica. Bought a house in the neighborhood, 3 years ago. Really just wanted to get involved in the community, and I really love Englewood, and I love all of our parks, and I want to see it stay beautiful, and that's why I'm here. So.
And Monica? Monica? There we go.
Hello. Yeah, I've been on the committee for about a year. I just like having my finger on the pulse. It's really nice to be able to know what's going on, understand what's happening, communicate it with your neighbors, and this gives you a chance to push it out a little further. So I think code enforcement is just so important, and the reason why I'm here is to try to push out their messaging in a positive way so that people in the community can see them as a valuable service.
Robert, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Hi, my name is Robert Watson. I'm a resident of Englewood for almost 30 years now. I'm in my 29th year of owning my house here. My two kids went through the Englewood school systems, and I feel like it's time to give back a little bit. So I've been on the election committee, and that really isn't a meeting a lot. So I wanted to branch out a little bit this year and try to expand myself in the community a little bit.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being a part of the committee. We're thrilled to have you. While not members of the committee, we have three other attendees that work with us. Councilmember Russell, which I believe you've met her, but Rita, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you all, and you, Robert, especially for volunteering. I mean, all the rest of them know that I appreciate volunteer helpers in the city. I have lived in the city of Englewood for a long time. I don't even know how many years. It probably is, it's over 50, maybe even close to 60. But anyway, I love the city of Englewood. I've been on this committee since I got on council, and I love this committee. And when I first got on, we talked about chickens for 4 years, I think. It really got nothing done. But the committee has been far more effective in the last few years, and so I'm very thankful for that. But welcome aboard. Thank you so much for volunteering, and really I thank all of you for volunteering.
Thank you.
And Supervisor Lewis, would you like to say something?
Hi, so I'm Dave Lewis. I'm the code enforcement supervisor. Welcome aboard, Robert. I look forward to meeting you in person. I've been with the city for 5 years, and there's been a lot of new, very positive progress that we've made within code enforcement. I'm the first official supervisor of the code enforcement division. I supervise 4 district code officers and 1 park ranger now. And I'm very excited to have you aboard. This is a great group of people to work with that work collaboratively. And we're very excited to hear you. I'm excited to hear your perspective and your input. One of my favorite things about my job is interacting with the public, attending meetings and hearing perspective from our elected officials, and really being out there and hearing the feedback from our community. That's so important to me. I look forward to continuing to improve this division, as well as improve our relationships with the public. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. And then the glue that holds us together and keeps me on task, Maureen Willis. Would you like to introduce yourself, Maureen?
Sure, I'm trying to there we go. I'm blocking my video. Hi, I'm Maureen Willis. I'm the staff liaison for the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. I've been with the city of Inglewood, and for 3.5 years, I work in the city attorney's office. Prior to that, I worked for the Lyon County, Nevada Board of County Commissioners and county manager for 20 years. And I was staff liaison to 15 different committees when I worked in Nevada. So I've got a lot of experience, and I hope that all of you would lean on me for that. So thank you so much. Glad to meet you. Someday we'll all meet in person. Thank you.
Thank you for all you. Yep. Thank you for all you do, Maureen.
No, you're very welcome.
All right, so let's move ahead with agenda item number 2, which is approval of minutes. We have 2 different dates to approve. So the first one would be consideration of minutes from our previous meeting in January, on January 21st. Would someone please move to approve?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Monica. Is there a second? Thank you, Member Dickerson. Are there any discussions or corrections to the minutes? All right, seeing none, please vote to approve the minutes as presented by a show of hands. Would those approving the minutes from January 21st, please raise your hands. And then we'll exclude Robert since he wasn't a member at that time, but it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you all very much. The minutes are accepted as presented. Then the second set of meetings is consideration from our special meeting on February 2nd. Would someone please move to approve those minutes?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Monica, and looks like Colleen seconded that. Thank you very much. Are there any corrections or discussions?
Could I ask that the minutes be corrected to include that I was here? I was actually, I was online watching the whole thing, but I couldn't get access to the meeting. So.
Great, glad you were there. Thank you.
I just want to state, I'm really sorry that I ended up having to be absent. I completely lost internet that afternoon, and I tried testing to see if I could do it through my phone, and I didn't have a solid enough connection. So that's why I wasn't able to attend. I didn't get internet back until like midday the next day.
All right, Member Dickerson, you had your hand raised.
Yes, I wanted to add a statement to that. And I sent it out earlier so it wouldn't take so much time to discuss, but I don't know if everybody got it.
I distributed it a couple minutes before the meeting.
Oh, well, then they hadn't had a chance to read it yet. How do you want to handle it? Do you want to, my dog is giving me fits. Do you want to post it?
Does everyone have the document in front of them? I sent the email about 5 minutes to 6. if everyone would take the time, it'll take you about 3 minutes to read it. It's pretty quick.
I already read it.
All right.
Chair Bowden.
Yes.
I already
believe
read it as
that
well.
I believe that member Dickerson sent it to all members. In the original email, she was just unable to send it to the 2 new members.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's give everyone another minute or so to read that.
Excuse me for a minute. I got to do something with my dog.
All right. Are there any further amendments to our meeting on February 2nd? All right. Any questions for Member Dickerson regarding her amendment? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as amended. Would someone, Coing? I think Colleen offered to made a motion.
I move to accept it as amended.
Great. Do we have a second, please?
I second.
Thank you, Sonia. Please vote by a show of hands to approve the minutes as amended. And Robert, you are able to vote on this because
I'm
you were-
abstaining. I wasn't there.
Got it. Looks like we have a unanimous yes. Thank you all.
Except for Carson. No Carson.
Well, yeah, he abstained. So, okay, the minutes as amended are accepted. Thank you all very much. The next item is on our agenda is a public forum. Maureen, can you tell if we have any attendees? I think you said no, we don't have any attendees.
No, we do not.
Actually, I have gotten a few text messages that people just can't get in.
And I really don't understand because both you and Chair Bowden got in. You were attendees. I moved you to panelists. So I don't know what to tell you. Did they send you anything to be read into the record?
No, they just sent me something saying that they couldn't get in. I asked them if they tried again. They said they have, but they can't get in, so.
And I'm happy to send them links again if you have their emails.
Actually, I don't have their email. It was a text message, so that's really why we probably shouldn't do Zoom, but that's problematic now. And it may not be our fault. It could be a technological glitch. I don't understand technology.
I'm sure it is a technological glitch since both you and Chair Bowden were able to get in as an attendee.
In our January meeting, we had the same thing happen we had someone attend the public forum and she was able to get in later in the meeting. So we suspended the meeting in order for her to speak. So if they're able to join, Rita, we can suspend the meeting in order to hear from them.
And remember, Russell, in case you don't know this, on the bottom, if you click that participants thing, and you see the box, then on the bottom left of that, there's an invite button. And you can get the link and the phone information out of that to share it directly with them too.
Cool.
So if I click on the participants down at the bottom, is that what
Yeah,
you're?
if you click participants, you should see a pop-up with a list of people. And then
Uh-huh.
on the bottom left of that, there's an invite button.
Oh, okay.
And then that inside there, you can get the detail. There's the invite link, or if you go to the phone tab, you can get the phone information.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Sure.
for that. Okay.
Okay, while we're waiting for that, why don't we go ahead with our agenda item number 4, which is code enforcement significant events, recognizing Supervisor Lewis.
Hi again. If you all hold on one moment, I'm going to introduce you to somebody.
I'm the new park ranger. I just wanted to take a second to introduce myself. My name's Alyssa Hayden. I have a background in park ranger technology as well as animal welfare. I spent 3 years serving the city of Centennial, doing a lot of park patrols, getting to know those parks. Really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to get to know Inglewood, their citizens, and the parks as well. Happy to put some names to faces tonight and get to know you guys as time goes on, get to hear your thoughts, concerns, those things of those nature, because what I'm hearing is that there are several concerns and a lot of them are differing opinions, so I'm happy to hear all of them. I welcome feedback. Like I said, I'm just getting to know the parks of Inglewood right now, but looking forward to working with you guys.
Welcome, and we're thrilled you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Apologize, a little slow on that. We're just trying to social distance and do all that with our swapping. So in speaking about that, I do want to just give you an update. As you all know, we have moved to level yellow within the spectrum. And so our enforcement efforts have changed in regards to the coronavirus. We are not receiving complaints like we were before. I think everyone has kind of accepted the new normal. As part of those protocols, we're still continuing to social distance within our enforcement fields. We're utilizing masks as required by the Tri-County Health Department, and all members of the Code Enforcement Division, including the Park Ranger, have been given opportunities to receive the coronavirus vaccine. So I do want to let you know that that has been offered to us. On to significant events. I sent you all the code enforcement annual cases, and this has also been published within a rather lengthy document on the police department website that outlines a lot more in-depth statistics that were presented to council, I want to say a week ago. I wanted to give you kind of an outlook, a 3-year outlook as to what has been accomplished within the city and what our highest call volume is within the city. And I wanted to see if you guys had any specific questions. I can tell you the weed one because this is so unusual, the high number that we had. If you guys will all remember, we did have a seasonal code enforcement officer that was specifically tasked with weeds and overgrowth in alleys and properties. So that would explain with that anomaly. And then with specifically the animal control, we have had significant increase in proactive enforcement related to animal control events within our parks and our communities. And so that's why you see that significant increase in the number of calls, reports that were generated in this. As you can see also, last year compared to this time, within the time frame, our snow and ice enforcement did go down. But if you'd also remember last year about this time, we had crazy weird weather within a short period over multiple days. And so that is what increased that enforcement. And this year is not over. I'm a farm kid. I grew up on a turkey farm, like I told y'all. And we swear by the Farmer's Almanac. So we're in for some weather if you listen to that. So we'll be out doing more enforcement when it comes to the snow and ice immediately after those snow floors, the 24 hours as requested.
Dave, what does the almanac say?
We're in for a doozy of a storm coming soon. So we're expecting kind of a wetter spring.
Okay.
Which we need in Colorado. We need that for a variety of reasons. We're a bit concerned here within emergency management with our fires and how that might impact some of the activities and things that occur within our parks, and allowing people to utilize those grills and go out and enjoy those activities if we are on fire bans like we were at the end of last year.
Great.
Does anybody have any questions over the annual statistics? Perfect. I do all want to let you guys know that I was not able to produce January statistics, and moving forward, I may not be able to produce those because we are in the process of transitioning to new systems. As soon as we have those available, I will present them in either this form or a different format. I still don't understand that yet. I have not been trained. So I do want to let you know that you will receive statistics. I just don't know what that's going to look like. And it may be a couple months before I'm able to get that data removed from the program. I think there's two attendees right now. I don't know if they want to mute or if you want to take their information before I continue.
No, go ahead, and why don't we finish with your update, Dave, and then we can go back to the public forum.
Perfect. I did just want to include, because there were some questions that were brought up at our special meeting about our authority, and I wanted to just make sure, especially because I'm not sure everyone knows what our authority is, or what our basically what gives us our authority in the city of Inglewood or the state. And so I wanted to briefly include those ordinances so that you all have an opportunity to review those, especially since we have new members that may not have reviewed those specific statutes, and where we are specifically with limited responsibilities defined as peace officers. So I did want to make sure that you all were aware of that. There's also a more detailed, longer council request that was posted this week on the council request portal, and you guys can view that as well.
Ms. Willis, is it possible for you to mute the attendees? Because we're getting a lot of extra noise from them until it's time for them to speak.
Yep. They should be muted.
Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions for me?
Looks like Colleen has raised her hand.
Yeah, I have some questions. Well, one, are there any in the codes you listed in this the state law? Are there anything in any of those with which you disagree?
With the state law, I'm really not here to discuss the state ordinances. I'm here to talk about the municipal ordinance. I just wanted to give you our authority.
So you agree with the authority that's in the two municipal codes?
I can't say I agree or disagree with this. This is the legislation that allows us to do our job.
Okay, well, I agree with them. I think they're very well written. So thank you for putting those down. Are there any other codes from which you derive authority except what's in these two codes?
There are multiple codes on the state level, hundreds of them where we are mentioned, that also give us further authority. There's also the Department of Agriculture, Bureau of Animal Protection rules that outline our specific authority as well.
Are there any codes that limit your authority?
This is The only thing that I can say that would limit our authority is specifically outlined in that code, which would be to make a formal arrest and carry a firearm.
Further questions, Member Dickerson?
Well, actually, I was trying to determine some things, but if we look at this, we know what they actually say. So we know what authority is granted and what isn't. If I can't get specific codes on a certain more authority than is listed in here, then I guess I'll have to discuss it with the city attorney or do a council request. But thank you for hosting this.
And Ms. Dickerson, I want to just direct you to the council request that was brought out that also defines a variety of enforcement powers within the city of Inglewood.
Member Dickerson, we've got other people that have raised their hand. Is there anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. Member Johnson.
Hello, I just wanted to go back and say how exciting it is that we have a park ranger. It was so nice to see her face, and I look forward to seeing her in the parks. And I think it's phenomenal that you are able to do your job without carrying a firearm. And I'm sure you find yourself in some tricky situations sometimes. So I applaud you for your service, and thank you for your report.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I just want, if you don't mind, I just want to elaborate on that. Thank you. We don't carry firearms. And so that's a big part of our training, is really working on de-escalation and communication with the public. We are attending upcoming training on specific de-escalation that is put on and hosted by the state. So I do want to let you know that we continue to do our training, especially because we have nothing to fall back on but our words and the way that we properly communicate with the public.
Thank you. Member Green, you had your hand raised?
Yeah. Is there anything about the existing code that you find insufficient or worth discussing? Or, I mean, are you happy with what's there for all of these aspects?
With the enabling portion, yes. You have to go back to the way that things are defined at the state level and how it gives authority. It's very complex, and how it gives authority to municipalities. And Inglewood also has a charter. We have a constitution. And so throughout the state of Colorado, each jurisdiction, as well as other varieties, have limited peace officer status for a variety of reasons. And so the way this is outlined and defined, giving us our authority, is very well written and very well thought out. I don't think the city attorney, the current city attorney or former city attorney, believed that there was any changes that needed to be done.
And in regard to the firearm stuff, do you guys carry anything? Do you carry spray, or have you ever had situations where you've had to defend yourself or anything?
Fortunately, we have not been in a situation where we've had to go hands-on, where we had to physically touch someone. We do training in self-defense tactics. We do that training alongside with the police department because that is important for us, but we are trained to primarily disengage, call for help if needed, and then only go hands-on in emergency situations. So we do carry a form of pepper spray that is primarily utilized and only utilized for animals. The only reason that we would use that is if it was a deadly force encounter where our lives or another person's lives were in jeopardy, and then we would utilize that on a person. We also have what we refer to as a baton. That baton is expandable. It's similar to a police baton that is primarily used for animals and is referred to as a bite stick within different variety of different policies and training manuals. Again, that tool is only utilized if it is where we're in imminent danger or another person's life is in imminent danger, and then we could use that against the person. But the primary purposes of the tools that we have are for primarily encountering animals.
And are there ever situations where you have to go in to enforce code where you would preemptively like have police with you?
Yes, there are
Okay.
a multitude of reasons as to why we would have police join us. There are too many to list. We do have that available to us. It is utilized when we are encountering the public, when we're not able to utilize our de-escalation techniques, or if we have knowledge that the person may be dangerous or wanted or have some type of a background that would concern us.
Thank you. And thank you for what you guys do.
Cara, you had your hand raised?
Hi. Dave, I don't have any questions on the specific report, but I did want to ask, because at the special meeting, we had approved a change to the code. And I don't know if this is for you or for anyone else on the committee, but I was just kind of curious on, how quick that turnaround is and whether it's effective immediately. And also, I've noticed on Nextdoor, I see all these really sad posts of people posting about, their neighbors leaving their animals out. And we've had a really bad cold spell the last week. And if that would fall, I think you've mentioned this on prior meetings, so I apologize if this is a repeat, but I think you've mentioned before that that would fall in your world where you could help those animals. And if you've had any instances where you've had to, intervene with the recent cold spell that we've had.
So we have received calls for service in relation to animals that were left outside. We do investigate each case separately, and we investigate the totality of the circumstances. So if we were to go onto a scene where we received a complaint, we need to look at, does the animal have adequate shelter? Does the animal have access to go in and outside of the house on its own? What type of breed of animal is that? Are we looking at a small, short-haired Chihuahua who is not genetically built for cold weather? Or are we looking at a Siberian Husky, which enjoys being in the cold weather, actually relishes it, wants to be cold, is genetically designed to be in that environment? And then we look at whether or not the animal is in distress. Is the animal showing signs of being cold? Is it shivering? Is it showing any other kinds of distress? Does it possibly look like it's howling or jumping or trying to get inside or get away from the cold? We take all of those into account when we do an investigation. Our first step is to always also educate the public. So if we do encounter that, we always try and contact the owner and find out a little bit more about the animal, what their behaviors are, what it's being fed, what its vet records are, what its vaccination history is. And then we determine whether or not that merits issuing of summons or removal of the animal for an impound hearing for cruelty and neglect. So that is a great question and a policy question, so thank you. And your first question, I forgot the first part of that.
Oh, I was just following up on, the special meeting that we had.
Oh,
what
yes.
was it, the other week or a couple weeks ago, and how quickly that goes into effect for you, and if you're able to work on that now, or if there's other processes that have to take place.
So my understanding, and maybe Maureen can jump into this, it's currently again with the city attorney's office to present to city council. As part of that, I believe that we're doing a review of Title VII as well, and I don't know what it is on the agenda to present the changes to parts of the Title VII Animal Code. Colleen was right. I will confer with her that the minute that that this was done, there are other aspects that do need to be changed. And so that whole process will be presented to council. Council did ask that that be brought forward later. I don't know when that is on the agenda. Maybe Maureen knows something different.
Maureen?
Yes, it's tentatively scheduled right now for a first reading of the ordinance on March 1st. That is a tentative schedule. It depends if everything gets done.
And Maureen
Awesome.
is,
Well, thank you so much for the information and super informative response on how you deal with the animals, and especially during the cold spell. And I too want to welcome your new member to code enforcement. So it was great to virtually meet her as well. So please welcome her, and yeah, look forward to working with you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Maureen, the March 1st first reading, is that just the amendments that we requested for impounding, or is that the major overhaul for the entire animal code section?
Right now, I believe that it's just the amendments, but I would have to verify that.
Okay. Further questions for Supervisor Lewis? All right, thank you, Dave. And again, welcome to our park ranger. I look forward to meeting her also. So we're going to take a step back to agenda item number 3, the public forum. This is an opportunity for the public to address the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee. We expect that your presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. Committee members may ask questions for clarifications, but there won't be any dialogue back and forth. Please limit your presentation to 3 minutes. And why don't we go ahead with, looks like we have Hoffman. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please state your name and where you live. What district?
I think they're still muted. I've asked them to unmute because I can only do that.
Okay.
Are
you able to send them a text?
I don't have their text information.
Yeah. Oh, okay. How about Brown? Ms. Brown?
Does anybody know how to unmute if you're on the phone? I think it's like *6 but I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it says here in the directions.
Members of the public, if you're able to hear us, we welcome your input. We just are unable to hear you. If you can figure out how to unmute yourself, we'd welcome your input. Shoot. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move us forward on the agenda. If the members from the public are able to join us and talk, then once again, we'll circle back with the public forum. Moving forward, agenda item number 5, update from City Council Liaison Council Member Russell.
Thank you. And actually, I appreciate Kara's question, so I will add a little bit to what's already been said. I'm unaware, it probably is on the agenda for March 1st, which will be first reading. 2 weeks later, there will be a second reading. And even after the second reading, every ordinance, resolution, whatever, takes 30 days to go into effect. So we're looking at, I think, a couple months, really. So, well, a month and a half, probably. I think that's the normal process. So the other thing I would like to talk about is really about your bylaws, because this came up, and I did look at Article 4, Section 2 of the bylaws about meetings and meetings being posted. And I know that because, and I did speak with the city attorney, he shared that once the meeting is determined, so like at this meeting, we'll determine the date of the next meeting, that covers the notification of the meeting. And so the meeting notification, but I think there's one thing that is not spelled out in your bylaws that I feel like is understood. This is what council does. For every Monday evening council meeting, the council packet is delivered to the council members the Thursday before. So there is 3 days for council to review the packet. And I felt like there was an understanding that that's the way it is. The reason council does that is to be open and transparent to the public. And so I think that when the meeting and the agenda is posted at least 3 days in advance, that it appears more open and transparent to the public. I'm not saying we're not being open and transparent, but appearance is a lot. So it may be something that you as a committee want to reconsider, perhaps going back to Article 4, Section 2, and perhaps adding that in. But it's up to you. It is your committee. You all are free to do whatever you want. The 24-hour notice, I believe, is noted in state law, not in your bylaws, not in city ordinance. And I believe it refers to special meeting needs 24 hours notice. So I just wanted to bring that up to your attention. Whatever you all choose to do, it is up to you, because the bylaws are a result of what this board chooses to do. So I think that's all I have for right now.
Are there any questions for Councilmember Russell? Member Dickerson?
I'm having trouble with that. Something came up at council the other night, and I would hope that you could share it. I didn't get all of it. It had something to do with youth members getting to vote, and they asked the city, the interim city attorney, about bylaws, and he said, no, the bylaws belong to council. We've always understood that there are bylaws. It's even in our enabling legislation that we make these decisions for our committee. But could you elaborate a little bit? Because I wasn't able to follow all of it. I had a bad transmission.
So would you just remind me of the very first sentence that you said, because I lost track.
Oh, it's something happened in one of your meetings.
Yes, okay.
About the bylaws.
Yes.
And youth membership.
Right. Okay. Thank you for reminding me that, because that there was motion to change the boards and commissions makeup by allowing youth members in every committee. And so there was some discussion. I brought up that perhaps we shouldn't, there are some unintended consequences of just giving that blanket statement. So the bottom line is, I first wanted to make an amendment that didn't work, but we removed Section 3 about youth members on boards, and it's going to come back to a study session, and the amended version passed 7-0. So it is something that council will be talking about. So thank you for reminding me, Member Dickerson, because I do think that was of interest to you all. So thank you.
Can I follow up a little bit on that? If they added youth members, they would have to do it individually for each board and commission, because at least CEAC, as far as I know, our committee, it's in the enabling legislation as to how many members we have. And if they add one, are they going to have to take one of the members, regular members, off if they're going to make them voting members?
You know, that is a good point. And I thank you for that input, because it's really helpful when you all let me know about things, because this wasn't something that I caught in the first reading of that. Actually, Member Dickerson contacted me and brought that up. And then I did remember, originally, we only had 2 or 3 boards, like Parks and Rec, the library board, where youth members were on that. And so and Mayor Olson agreed with me that it is something that we need to go back to. And I think that is a great point, Member Dickerson, about making sure that we go back to each individual board and commission.
Can I finish following up on the comment on the bylaws? I don't know where the interim city attorney got that the bylaws had to be approved by council, because we were assured many times that that wasn't the case, that the bylaws were ours to decide.
So actually, I think that what he shared was probably his understanding at the time. So, and each board and even council themselves need to decide some things for themselves, but the city attorney is there to advise us and to protect us. So, and I appreciate that because we need that. So thank you, Member Dickerson.
Further questions for Councilmember Russell? All right.
I was just thinking, at least,
Oh,
I
sorry,
don't know if
Councilmember.
it's multiple boards or committees, but at least like Board of Adjustment and Appeals, I think you actually have to own property in the city.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the reason that's came up, and it was a wise idea for us. And really it's the quasi judicial boards that probably we should not allow any youth members on any of the quasi judicial boards. So, and there are other things too. So it will be something.
And also I'm not sure if it'll work, but our attendees, when it's time, they could try *6 on their phone. That might unmute them.
Thank you.
They could just be members that want to attend and they don't want to speak. So that's cool too. All right. Further questions for Councilmember Russell? All right, seeing none, we will move forward to agenda item number 6, which is the Subcommittee on Communications.
I guess that's me. Okay, I believe that Julie forwarded to everyone the short article that's going to go in the next magazine to start our Emerald Ash Borer initiative. I sent out an email earlier this week to all of you. I hope you received it. Just asking for any resources that you think should be connected to a landing page, any message you think might be appropriate for a banner ad on the city website, and or to put on social media so that we can forward those. I will meet with Chris Hargrove tomorrow at 9 a.m. and we will cover any final edits to that article. And the one thing I am hoping to do is put a link in the article to a landing page for Emerald Ash Borer. And we had a previous page, but it's like our website's it's hard to find some things and easy to find others. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to meeting with them tomorrow to see if they have like where they're at on the landing page and if it's been embedded in the site, because they assured me that by the time the article went to print, that the landing page would be there. And one of the goals for the spring article was to connect those items.
Member Johnson, when it comes to the content on the web page, are we creating our own content or are we directing people to Colorado State's website that's very comprehensive?
It is what I understand is that it's going to be a combination of both. So we're going to combine our messaging and that logo did everybody get that logo? Okay. So it will be a combination of those two things. Of course, we want to direct people to the best resources. And what we're going to put on there is, and what we're going to send out is messaging that directs people to good resources, because for example, the article was shortened from what you had originally written. And I was advised when I had my first meeting with Chris Harguth that what we're trying to direct people and give them a quick hitter message and not go too in depth on some of these things. So, which I agreed with. It can get a little dense with Emerald Ash Borer, especially. And I think what's really important is for people to first figure out if they have one and then know that it's in peril. Like, that's really what you need to know. And once you decide that, then we can guide you. So it's kind of a mix. And that's why I was asking for input. And we're also doing a survey tomorrow. So was the second question. With the objective of creating a list of residents that may have an ash tree on their property and might need guidance in deciding what to do about that.
Okay. Member Johnson, has the city or even the communications committee, have they developed any plans at this point? Or, I mean, is there a communications plan that the city's doing? And has Dave Lee put together any programs or anything like that that's new about EAB that you're aware of?
Dave Lee was, I haven't met with him. He was, I think, supposed to come to one of our meetings at some point. I've corresponded with him and he is sharing, I think I forwarded to you also some resources that he has shared on identification. And I think that's what he's primarily using as well. So, right now, the only thing that is set in stone is that the article is where it's at. The landing page is going to be a thing and it's going to be linked in. We discussed linking it. You know how on the bottom of the main website page, there's like the big button for the water plan and meetings and all that, like hopefully getting it somewhere where it's very prominent so that you don't have to like think to go to code enforcement to get to a landing page for EAB, because it's something that needs to be top of mind for folks. So, and then that's why I'm reaching out to all of you, because I would like some help with ideas for social media. And I'm plenty busy with my day job and I'm not a whiz at this stuff, but I do think that the messaging is really important. And if we can, that's what's great. What I've discovered is that Chris and his team do a great job if you just tell them what you want to say. Okay. So I think what the best thing that we can do as a group is just tell them what we want to say in the simplest of terms and link them to the information that would most be helpful to citizens. Okay. And they package it pretty nicely, and I'm excited to see this new platform that they're using for landing pages.
Cool. Questions for Member Johnson? Sonia.
Hi, I was looking at the logo and the only thing that I think was really missing on it, because there was 2 trees and one was like a strong like cartoon character, but a lot of people just glance at things. I think in the image, it also needs to show like a large picture of what the leaves look like. Because I think the common people look at a leaf and to determine what type of tree they have.
Sure,
and
yeah.
That was missing on it. I know like arborists always look at bark, but I'm not good enough to do that. And I don't think the average person is, but that's the only thing that I feel like was missing when people look at something quickly and then they go, wait, I do have one of those trees in my yard. I think having some of the leaves on the logo would help people identify it quicker.
Okay, that's a great.
That was just my thought when I was looking at it.
Yeah. If you look in the little article, there is a nice picture of what the cluster of leaves looks like in the magazine. So,
okay, I didn't get to that point. I just got to the logo and I didn't get to the article yet. So
no, that's great. And we'll also put that on the website. And as far as the logo, I believe they said we scanned through many different logos. I guess there's this service where graphic artists submit their work, they kind of bid on it. And so we went through many logos, and I wish you could see all of the ones that were there, because we had a really nice discussion about what communicated the issue the best out of all the logos. Unfortunately, none of them had the leaf pattern like you're describing.
Okay.
I agree that that is a great idea, and I will bring that up and ask how we can make that more prevalent, and if there's any wiggle room on changing up that logo. Would that be good?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all your hard work.
Member Green, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, thanks. I'm trying to find, Member Johnson, you said that Chair Bowden sent us the article. I don't know if I missed it. I'm trying to find it. All I have is the logo, which I totally like the logo. I get what Member Strom is saying about how it doesn't help you identify, but I think expecting to be able to identify it based on the logo might be a little bit much. I mean, there's so many resources we're tied into for being able to identify. And I mean, from my own trying to identify, it seems like the easiest way is when the opposing branches they come from the, they touch each other instead of being offset. That's because I went through a bunch of things to try to identify them on a couple properties, and
it's that symmetrical leaf structure. And oh, trust me, like I've been for months, before the leaves fell, I was walking around like Harvard Gulch and different parks and trying to identify. And I'm fortunate, our school did a project where we labeled all the trees. And right outside my building, there's a bank of ash trees. And so I kind of watched them throughout the fall, and now I have an idea, but it can be really confusing. And that's why I think those sites are great. And I mean, we need to be able to help residents if they're not sure, so I think just giving them a contact, giving them that resource at CSU where they will identify your tree for you, that's what Dave Lee recommends. And I think we just need to be a connector. It needs to be like out front. And I think less is more on the front. And as you decide this is something that is relevant to you, you should be able to find the information, from the front page of our website. Hopefully that's what my goal is.
I wonder if, I mean, it may be resisted, but at the top of the website right now, they have that whole
COVID. I was looking at that.
I mean,
too.
putting it right under that technically wouldn't be hard to do, and it does apply to the whole city. I mean, and it could just be a few words with a link similar to what those are, but that would definitely get it out there better. I think the lower part of the homepage is, I bet most people never even see it because they hit things on the menu to try to get around. At least that's been my experience of trying to find things on the city site.
From what I understand, that banner ad is an option. That's what was communicated to me. So I will definitely push for that. And I agree with you. It took me a while to find that meetings button on the bottom page. So.
Supervisor Lewis is trying to say something.
You're on, Dave.
Okay. Just so you all know, the city is in the process of revamping our website. I just saw a preliminary version of that at our supervisory meeting yesterday. And it's great that you guys are having these conversations. Make sure, I just want to let you all know, make sure you're having these conversations with Chris so they can start including this. It does look completely different than our current web page, and it is far easier to use. So just so you all know, this is coming, but make sure you include this portion of what you'd like to see as we're finishing up the final stages, I think, to go live within the next 60 days, I think, maybe sooner.
And Chair Bowden, when did you send the article? I'm not finding it, and it's not in
I sent it at 5:56. I thought maybe I forgot to include you, but your name is on that.
Oh, you sent it just before the meeting?
Right.
Oh, okay.
It's just short and sweet.
And it was based on the article that we wrote a year ago. She just condensed it. Monica, if anyone has any comments or suggestions, should they send them to you?
Yes, please. Anything you have to say, I will bring to the meeting in the morning. Like I said, my hope is to keep the messaging simple in the magazine, but definitely link it up to a landing page. I've been hearing about this new website. Dave, thanks for letting me know and letting us know how that's coming along. It's actually really exciting. I definitely have been pushing for us to have a prominent spot like on the front page of that website for this upcoming season, because it's probably the most critical time for people to become aware of this and start acting.
Excuse me, am I unmuted?
You are right now.
I'm sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Can I speak now or should I wait?
If you wouldn't mind, we're currently talking about an agenda item, but we're almost done, and we'll circle back for the public forum if that's okay with you.
Okay, because what I did want to talk about was the emerald ash tree.
Great.
So, okay.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, how do I mute myself now again?
I think star 6 is supposed to mute and unmute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carson.
Member Dickerson, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, we had talked once before. Oh, by the way, I never got that email. I'm looking at it right now, and the last thing I got was at 5:54, and it wasn't from you. So I don't have it.
I didn't get it either.
But moving on, we talked sometime before about possibly doing a flyer that had a return postage thing built into it so that it wouldn't be paid for unless it got returned. And we never did finalize anything on that. Did you find out if we could do something like that? And I am talking to people on the PIN Facebook page, the Protect Inglewood's Neighborhood, and they're thinking about whether they can join us on this so that we can process everything. I mean, use their people to issue flyers. So what would be, it's just another mode for reaching people that don't have websites or computers or don't want to use them or don't have internet.
What is the group you're referring to?
Sorry. There's an organization called PIN, Protect Inglewood Neighborhoods, and they've asked me to pass out some flyers for them on another subject. And I asked them, would they consider piggybacking flyers for us on emerald ash borer, because that's an issue for, protecting our neighborhoods. So, but I'm just more interested in, can we do a flyer and have the postage prepaid on it? And I'll develop something with your help or guidance. But would that be something that would get the ball rolling for a survey that people aren't going to want to go online for?
Got it. I do believe it's possible. I think doing a blanket, I've heard that it's cost prohibitive from Chris Harguth and his team to do a full, like a mailing.
Well, that's what I didn't want to do, passing it out, but with a return. And then it's only whoever returns it that you pay for. And that's pretty minimal because a lot of things don't get returned.
Great. Well, this would be great then, and this is perfect timing. If you could send me the name of that PIN organization or PEN.
Yeah.
And then I will bring that up at the meeting tomorrow morning and ask if that would be a good way to do that, if that would be beneficial. I know that we can do it online. That's pretty ubiquitous at this point, but I totally understand where you're coming from, that there are a lot of people who don't get online. So, and we definitely want to help them as well. So yeah.
Well, I volunteered to pass out 200 flyers, and I would do it for Emerald Ash Borer also.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. You got your steps in. Okay. So yeah. So if you send me that, I will send out to all of you whatever I come back with after tomorrow's meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Further questions for Member Johnson regarding Emerald Ash Borer communications? All right. Well, thank you all. Those are great conversations. At this point, I'm going to circle us back to the public forum. And Ms. Brown, I think it's Marcy, by the way. If you can unmute yourself, there is an expectation that your presentation will be conducted in a respectful manner. We may ask you some questions for clarifications, but there won't be any dialogue. Please limit your presentation to 3 minutes and go right ahead.
Okay, I guess you can hear me now.
We can.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to unmute myself at the beginning and it just wouldn't work. I guess I have a question about these emerald ash borer trees. What does code enforcement planning on doing with these trees if they're in your yard? I mean, are they going to have the power to say, oh, you got to cut it down? And so that's my question, I guess, because I know people who have these trees and they seem really healthy to me, and I know they take care of them. Somebody comes by once a year and takes care of their roots to make sure that they are not infiltrated by these bugs. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what they're called. And as long as you do that, I don't see a problem with the tree. So I guess I would just like to ask, what is code enforcement planning on doing with emerald trees?
If I can answer on behalf of the committee, are you guys okay with that? So, Marcy, that I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad we've got interest from the community, because this is an issue that was brought to us about 1.5 years ago. And it was brought to us by the city and code enforcement. And the concern is does our current code facilitate actions that need to be taken if and when this infestation occurs? And from what we know, it is on its way to us, and we're very interested in modifying or updating our tree and shrub code in order to help residents, help the city help residents, and then also help code enforcement help the city and help residents. The actions that we've taken so far is we've done a review of our existing code to understand how the process would work as code is written today. And we have noticed some gaps. We've also done research on what 6 other cities surrounding us have done in preparation, not only from a communications perspective, but also from the code perspective. And so we're looking at that. Our next step, and that we'll be working on this tonight, is to identify the areas in the code that need to be updated or modified. And we're in the process of working on that right now. Does anyone else on the committee anyone like to add to what I just said, Carson?
Just, one thing to be aware of is as far as I'm aware, unless I'm personally misinformed, our recommendations and what is currently the status is that no, the city wouldn't be telling people that they couldn't have an ash tree, especially if they're taking care of it. Even City Council member Russell has a couple, and she's been having arborists come and treat them annually, and that's encouraged. And part of what we're talking about in our messaging is to help get the word out that if you have healthy ash trees that you want to maintain, that they are going to require treatment, because this bug, this emerald ash borer that is coming here, will take them all out. And it's not really a question of if, it's a when. And so if we want to get the word out so people know that that they need to identify if they have the trees, and if they do, decide if they want to keep them or not. And if they're going to keep them, then get the treatment going so that the tree is going to be able to survive when this bug does get here, which it's rapidly getting close to our community.
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Member Johnson had her hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to, what Carson said, that's correct. And one of the things that we were talking about initially doing on social media are little 30-second spots, just to grab the attention of the community. And remember, Russell has some ash trees. Ms. Brown has some neighbors with some ash trees. Ms. Strom has a neighbor across the street with a big ash tree. And if we could, if any of those folks that I just mentioned would be willing to be a part of just a very short interview, I think in the spring when those trees bloom, they're just so beautiful. And the mature tree, like looking at a beautiful mature ash tree and talking to a neighbor and them communicating in a few words why that tree is important to them and the people on their block, and what they've done to save it can go a really long way. And that's also, I think that could be a really important piece for this messaging, because when people are scrolling through Nextdoor or Facebook and they see that, I think that will catch their eye. So, and I think that's great, that your neighbors are taking care of their trees. That's
Monica, I mean, I can offer up the neighbor we saw across the street from me that was actively pruning and getting a treatment applied to their ash tree. I don't know the person that lives there, but I'm willing to knock on their door and talk to them about if they would be interested in that. Their tree looks great now.
Yeah, and apparently there's a former reporter on the communications team that knows how to do like quick hitter media spots. So I think that a little man on the street action would be fantastic. So yeah, so anybody who has somebody who would be willing to do that, please send me their contact information so I can forward it.
I will go over and introduce myself. Marcy, it's somebody that's on the middle of the block on the west side of the street. We happened to be walking by when they were doing the pruning, and we stopped and talked to the tree company that was working on it, and they confirmed that it was an ash tree and that they were trying to maintain it so that the tree would survive the infestation.
I'm sorry, maybe I'm not supposed to ask questions, but could you tell me what block that was?
That's our block on Sherman. It's in between your house and my house, but on the west side of the street. And I don't know this neighbor. It's a good time for me to knock on their door and introduce. I believe you know where Mary lives. They're one house north of Mary. It's a white house.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you for attending and your interest.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I appreciate it.
Great. Monica, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, but every time we talk about it, I just get jazzed. So I'm really excited to talk to Chris tomorrow. And I would really, like I said, this is not, talking's my wheelhouse. Technology is not. So anything you guys want to pass along, I can relay. But I really can't wait to see some social media posts go up, and I'm really excited about the new website. So it sounds like it's a really great time to do this, because I'm sure everyone else in the city, machine is excited about the new website. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Okay, so circling back to our agenda, agenda item number 7 is new business. The floor is now open for any motions with regards to new business. Member Dickerson.
Yeah, I'd like to propose an amendment to the bylaws. It was taken out of our bylaws, but we originally had a requirement that a packet and the agenda be sent to at least 3 days in advance of a meeting to all members, including liaisons. And I'd like to propose that we put that back in. I understand it was a mistake this time, but I remember when we were discussing it that we were assured that we would get the information well in advance, so we didn't need to have it in there. And I think we really need to have it more than one day or 24 hours because we have a lot of material to cover, and I just think we need a little more time to digest it.
Any conversation, comments? Member Green?
Member Dickerson, you're saying that when we went through the bylaws, it originally required 3 days and then we switched it to 24 hours?
No, it's not 24 hours in there. It still says 3 days notification, but it no longer says anything about every member getting the packet.
Oh, it's specifically the materials.
Yeah, the materials. And it was kind of assumed that the notification would, the materials would accompany the notification, because just establishing a meeting time or a date, but with no assurance that we were going to have the information for that, because it could be changed at a moment's notice. I just think we need to put it back in that all members, including liaisons, should get the packet of information and the public at least 3 days before any regularly scheduled meeting.
I mean, I think that makes sense. I would prefer that we always have the packet enough ahead of time that we can, get through it. I mean, Chair Bowden, is there any reason you don't want to have it that way?
I'm resistant to touching our bylaws because that took us sideways for almost an entire year. So it wasn't a mistake that we didn't send it out earlier. We just had a lot to do. So I agree, it would be nice to have the materials 3 days in advance, and it's definitely a target for us to try and hit. I'm just averse to putting it in our bylaws. Cara?
Hi, yeah, Julie, I would totally agree with you. It's a nice to have, but we're all volunteers here and we all have day jobs and other commitments, and it's just challenging to meet some of those timelines when they're coming directly from some of the members. So I would have to agree with Julie that it's a nice to have, and we can certainly strive for that, but I don't feel like I'm willing to commit to something like that, especially if it's required directly from me.
So Member Dickerson, other than this week, has there been additional times when we've not sent it sooner than 3 days in advance?
No, this is the first time.
I think it's probably an anomaly, and based on the fact that we had 2 meetings in 1 month.
But some information has been given to us at the last minute.
What would that information be?
Well, there were some things that you sent out at the last minute, and we'd not had time to process it. And the public wouldn't have had any time to process it, and it ended up being discussed in a meeting. And I don't know if you remember, but back in 2017, that kind of thing happened. And the packet was without a very important piece of information that was going to be discussed. And the city attorney killed our meeting because that wasn't proper notification.
Well, I don't recall that, but the material that I sent out 4 minutes before our meeting, I received this afternoon. So we can certainly put something in place that says, if I don't have your information 3 days before the meeting, it's not going to be covered at all.
Well, that wasn't my point. I think we should, we can propose an amendment, and I think it's something that we should, and we were assured that we'd always get everything quite a bit in advance. I think 3 days is sufficient because council gets 3 days and the public gets 3 days. And sometimes it takes that long to be able to process things. So I would like to see the agenda posted and the packet material posted at least 3 days ahead. Whether, and I think it should go in our bylaws.
So again, other than this month, has it ever happened with this committee and this chair?
I think it's been close, like 2 days. And it felt, I've had to ask for it several times because I didn't get it. But it would be nice to have it in writing in the bylaws.
Would anyone else like to speak on this issue? Member Green?
I would just say, I think it's worth giving it another try. I mean, now that we've all discussed this, and I mean, Chair Bowden's, clearly on board with the goal, and we're not trying to make it difficult on anyone. Nobody wants it to be, shoved in, and Liaison Willis gets it out regularly well ahead of time. And this month has been weird because of the middle extra meeting. So, and we do want to move forward with all these other priorities. So I agree with Chair Bowden that let's just have this be the goal and the plan and the way we operate, and not take the time to, put everything else off and modify the bylaws, at least at this point, unless it becomes an ongoing issue.
I'm also welcome to have somebody else do the minutes, because it takes quite a bit of time, because we have to go back and listen to the entire audio to make sure that we don't get caught up in continuous revisions to our minutes. So I'm very open to having somebody else do the minutes. Member Johnson, you have your hand raised.
I'm sorry, Chair Bowden, I'm not volunteering to do the minutes because I know how long it takes you. And I appreciate that you do it. But you guys all know me by now. I think, we're trying to operate on good faith here with a common objective. And I think I don't really see this as, I don't see it as a huge issue at this point. And I agree with Member Green that going forward, if we need to revisit, fine. But that was a long and laborious process. And we finally got something done after finishing that. And I just really am so looking forward to doing the work of the committee. And I think you do a great job of communicating with us. And on this specific issue, I remember us speaking about it a couple of months ago when your schedule had changed. And so I really don't, I am not, just from my angle, I'm not feeling a lack of communication. I don't feel unprepared. Just to share that with everyone. That's all I have.
Thank you, Member Johnson. Cara, you have your hand raised. Maybe that's left over. Cara, did you want to speak? There you go.
Oh, hi, I'm sorry. I think that was from earlier. So just to reiterate what Carson and Monica had already said, and totally agree. So.
Member Dickerson, your hand is raised.
Moving on, I would like to for new business, our bylaws do specify re-election of chair and co-chair March or April. I think as soon as possible after March 1st, I think is the way it reads, that we have to have an election for chair and co-chair because the terms are only 1 year.
Right, we all just rewrote those bylaws, so I'm well aware of that, and we can actually include that in our topics for future meetings and for our agenda in March. All right, any other recommendations with or motions for new business? All right.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's new business, but do we do something at the end where people can just, like the council member corner where Ms. Russell says what's the topics of concern? Or is this, I mean, it's not really an agenda item for us is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking for just like an open forum where we freely talk, or?
Well,
Well,
kind of.
subcommittees and boards will have in the agenda every time, like an opportunity for like the members, I forget what the right term for it is, but like
Yeah.
members' choice. To be
Yeah.
able to bring up a topic or something.
Yeah, like you go around the room, like I'm on Parks and Rec, and at the end, we just kind of go around and everybody says like something quickly. I had one of those. It's not new business, so.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm open to that.
Okay, and they're short and sweet, and it's just saying something that you want to compliment or say that's going on in the community. Maybe that's the new business. Maybe we can do a whip around at the end of all our meetings. Maybe that's my proposal.
So would that be under new business, unfinished business, or right before adjournment? I mean, what?
Yeah, just kind of like a closing statement. Oh,
Yeah, usually it's before the right before adjournment, like members' choice kind of thing.
Yeah.
Maureen, you had your hand raised. You have some guidance for us?
I just wanted to let you know that it should be a standalone item on your agenda, so it should be members' choice.
Got it.
So we could do that maybe next time?
Sure.
Okay.
Member Dickerson, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, we have in our bylaws, we are allowed to change the agenda anytime we want, and you can just add it. I don't think we need to do a vote on it.
Cool. Okay.
But we could just right now do that, you know, just say, let's change the agenda and have members' choice added to the bottom.
Does anyone have an objection to that? Member Green?
No, separate. I was going to bring something else up. Go ahead and finish that.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm happy to add that to the agenda unless anyone has an objection. We'll go ahead and do that. Any other hands raised? Okay. So we will modify the agenda to include that item as the last item before the adjournment. And then stepping into unfinished business. I wish we could, is there a way to put unfinished business first before finished business? Are we allowed to do that, Maureen?
Yes.
Okay, good. I would like to do that because it seems like we save the most important thing for last and we never get to it because we have a lot to do. On the agenda item for unfinished business, we have two things, EAB and then Title VII Amendment Update. I believe we've already covered the Title VII Amendment Update. I think most of us were curious as to when the package would be presented to City Council, and Maureen and Dave answered those questions for us, so we can go ahead and check that off. On EAB, if I could, kind of circle back to what we're doing and why we're doing it. So we've investigated our current code. We know how things will work with code the way it is, and we've already seen some gaps. We've also had tons of ideas for what we could be doing to help residents, but the thing we haven't done is we haven't determined what the needs are. And what I'm asking is for this committee to spend some time, and it's basically a brainstorm session on what do residents need? Residents that have ash trees, what do they need in terms of helping to protect their tree or make decisions. Same thing for the city. What do we need to do to enable the city to help residents and to help protect trees? And then thirdly, the same thing for code enforcement. I've heard so many ideas, and if I could, I would. I'm going to share my screen because I've been taking notes for when people have been talking and some of the ideas that you've come up with. So I've just been writing them down, and I think you'll see that we've identified quite a few needs. Once we identify these needs, then we can marry that to the code, the existing code, and see where the gaps are. I would recommend that we invite Dave Lee to, if not the next meeting, the meeting after that, and share with him what we see the needs are and get his feedback to see if there's anything else, any other ideas. How does that sound for everyone? Okay. Carson, you had your hand raised, or you have your hand raised?
Yeah, you know, Dave Lee gave us so much good information when he first came and talked to us about this. I wonder if it'd be possible to have someone who's actually like an arborist, or, you know, someone who knows the details about how to treat this, if they could come to one of our meetings and inform us about more details. Because I think it would mean a lot and help if all of us were like really informed about the details of what, you know, what it means to treat a tree, and because everything that we know is going to spread and, you know, inform how we inform others and how we write, etc. So I don't know if that's possible. I actually do know an arborist. I don't know if he'd be interested in doing that, or if someone else might even have a closer contact of someone like that. But it seems like that'd be a useful person to talk to.
I believe Dave Lee is an arborist.
Okay. So I'm just real interested in like more technical detail about what goes into treating and how you can, you know, does it require an arborist to come look at your tree to know if it's even possible to treat it? Or is that information that we can, you know, spread? Like that hasn't been totally made clear to me yet. I'm just interested in that.
Okay.
And then just on, this is kind of a technical question. You know, the packet is a almost 5,000 page PDF that is unreadable in regard to the really nice Excel, you know, if this, then this, that Chair Bowden put together. Is there a reason that that other file types can't be included in our information, Ms. Willis? Because I think the public should be able to see that, and it's certainly not viewable in the PDF that was distributed.
I think I learned something from that. What I could have done is limited the fields that I sent to Maureen. So I actually learned a lesson from that, because it included the entire Excel file, even if it didn't have content in it. And that's where the 5,000 pages came from. Maureen, go ahead.
Yes, in order to upload documents into iCompass, I have been instructed that they have to be in PDF. We don't upload Word or anything else. So that's why it was converted to a PDF.
Sure. Or it could be turned into an image or something and put into the PDF. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I would like to see that redone, just so that the public can see all that really good. Because that, when you look at that and you read through that, it's very informative. I think, I really like how you put that together. And I think that we should have that included in the packet next time in a way that the public can see it too.
I can fix that from my end. And then when I provide it to Maureen, she'll have it in PDF form already. So it won't generate the 5,000 pages.
Thanks, Chair Bowden.
We have a couple of hands up. Cara?
Hi, I was just going to suggest I'm also on Keep Englewood Beautiful Committee, and I didn't realize that Dave Lee was an arborist, but I was going to suggest that we're also working with an individual to build a community park at the Depot Park, where they've kind of rebuilt that old, I think it's like the old train station, kind of right before Santa Fe and Dartmouth there. So I'm happy to reach out to her and see if, you know, she has knowledge in this area as well. But if Dave Lee is an arborist, then, you know, fully on board with that. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Member Dickerson?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Carson's comment. Dave's got a lot on his plate, and I think we could reach out to the five licensed arborists that have business licenses in Inglewood, and maybe a couple of others, and ask them not necessarily to join us on a Zoom meeting, because most of them are, you know, don't want to do that, but get input from them about their process, because they all have to have, in order to get licensed in the city of Inglewood, they all have to have the pesticide and herbicide certifications. The arborist certification doesn't mean a lot because it's it's the arborist organization certifies their own arborist, so it's not really meaningful. But what is meaningful is the ones that have the certification to apply pesticides from the state. So we could, and I would volunteer to do this because I've got the list handy. And I would check with you and Monica and Cara about the wording of a letter to see if we can get something from them about their process. You know, because I know they will have to come out and check the tree. That's just a given. So we know that. But, you know, there are various operations, and I think we should be able to get some information. And some of them might be big enough that they might send somebody to one of our Zoom meetings to talk to us.
Monica, you have your hand raised.
Okay, yes, this will be my last comment. First, I'd like to say, I think anytime I've included Dave Lee in an email or reached out to him, he's responded promptly and expressed an interest in collaborating with us. So I would definitely encourage you to invite him to a meeting. I bet he would do it if he has his schedule clear. The second thing is Carson asked a question about emerald ash borer detection. And I attended that seminar earlier this year, and it was really good for that. This is what is so insidious about emerald ash borer. By the time you can tell your tree has been infested, it's too late. And the way you can tell is that part of the canopy has died. So you'll have dead spots probably near the top of the canopy of your tree. But by that time, your tree has been completely infested. And what's happening is the emerald ash borers are prohibiting water and nutrients from getting to those top sections of your tree. So that's how you know it's happened, and oh my gosh, it's too late. So the way that an arborist will be able to tell if the ash borer has infested your tree early on, before that starts to happen, is they take a core sample or like a sampling of bark, and they can see those wormy patterns where those larvae are moving. And so if you can treat, I believe, early enough on, you can stop those larvae from hatching. But by the time you have any of that, you're pretty much done, is what I gathered. So really our goal is to see if you have an ash tree, see if it's been affected yet, and if it's not, treat it or cut it down so that it does not become a host. So just to impart that upon you, that's what I gather. And I think if we had Dave come to our meeting, it would really help to clarify that even more.
Okay. Member Dickerson.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to say not have Dave Lee, but Dave Lee doesn't do the work. And I don't think it would hurt to get since we're required, if you're going to use an arborist, that it needs to be licensed with the city, that we do a little legwork for the citizens, and just, a brief letter, ask them what their process is, how much it costs, and what they're willing to do in the city. And if they want to come and talk to us, because Dave isn't going to be able to do the work. So I wasn't trying to suggest he shouldn't come and talk, but it might be a benefit to follow up on what Carson wanted, which is to find out from each of the arborists, are they willing to work in the city of Inglewood? What would they charge if we got a lot of neighbors or a lot of people with ash trees to commit to it? Or maybe they could do some volunteer work or something. But that's what, I wasn't trying to diminish Dave Lee's input at all. Just contact the arborist we've got is licensed and find out if there's something we can negotiate with them that might help the citizens.
Councilmember Russell, you have anything?
Thank you. And normally I like to just be quiet, but I don't know if you all have thought about this. And so I'm just putting this out there that 4 to 5 years from now, maybe a fourth of the tree canopy in Inglewood could die. And so it is important to address all the things you're talking about. But as the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee, I think it is probably a good idea to think about what are we going to do when we have a third or a fourth of the tree canopy in Inglewood dead, because it then becomes a fire hazard. So I think maybe also looking at the tree ordinance and things like that. So I don't know if you've all thought about that, but I'm just planting it out there, because by the time it happens, then it's just kind of like we're trying to piece together different codes. If we plan ahead, maybe we could think through some things, or this committee could do that as well. So that's just food for thought.
And I think that the Excel spreadsheet that we were talking about earlier that caused the 5,000 pages, that's exactly what that is. Councilmember Russell, it's basically a flow chart of how our current code works. And if you have an ash tree, what will happen? And if it gets infected, what does our code say? And what do we have in place to help residents? So I think we're heading that direction.
Thank you. And I apologize. I couldn't figure out the Excel spreadsheet.
You know what? Why don't I go ahead and share my screen? Which screen is it? Oh, here it is. So, okay, this is the Excel spreadsheet. It's basically an evaluation, and the text here in light gray is actually what the code says. The darker text is kind of a what if scenario. If you have a tree and it's infected and it's under an emergency notice, how does that work? And there's code, there's direction in terms of whether or not if the owner is willing to pay for it, and if they don't pay for it, and that type of thing. So I think this really helps paint the picture of how our current code is set up to support us or not. And so what I'd like to do is, we've only got 5 minutes left, and I told you that I've been taking notes as we've been talking about what we think the residents need, and it was even brought up in Monica's presentation. What I'd like to do, since I took these notes, is send them to you, each one of you, and have you kind of brainstorm within yourself. What do residents need for this infestation, and do the same thing for what the city needs to be able to do. what I'd like to do, instead of using the meeting time to do that, I'll send this, because this is really based on what we've been talking about for the past, couple of months. And then we can go through those ideas, and then I can invite Dave to our next meeting and see if he's available. And we can share kind of what we've seen the needs of the city our needs of the city are. How does that sound? Okay, all right, so I'll go ahead and do that and send that out for your input. And if I could ask each member of the committee to go through this and see what else, haven't we talked about, and what else could we be doing? And you have several things to look at. You have evidence of what other cities have done. We have evidence of what our current code is, and then we have all the great ideas that have been talked about in our meetings the past couple of months. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I think that's it for EAB. And the next agenda item is to schedule our next committee meeting for March, which would be March 17th. Actually, we can go back to having our Wednesday meetings because I'm done with school next week. So that work for everybody? We talked about agenda items for our next meeting. One is to elect a chair and a co-chair. Were there any other? Also EAB, we can invite Dave, and then we'll also talk about needs for this residents and the city for EAB. Anything else? All right. And we will make an effort to get material out well in advance, like we usually do, so that we don't have this short notice again. And then if anybody wants to share information with other committee members, I'll need your documents or whatever it is that you want to share at least 3 days before the meeting, because material I received and sent out this afternoon, I actually received this afternoon also. Any other comments?
Hey, it's Monica here. I resent that article to you guys. I'm sorry, I don't think I sent it to you. I'll send it to you. Just to make sure you get it. And the thing I wanted to remind everybody of is if we do get dumped on with snow, I wanted to remind everybody to consider and maybe tell your friends to join the Snow Buddies program. It's very helpful. We have a lot of elderly citizens and it makes you feel good.
Great. All right. Thank you all very much and have a good evening, and we'll talk next month.
Thank you.
This meeting is adjourned.
Good night.
Thank